There are times when the overt corruption in British politics is absolutely sickening. None more so than during the COVID pandemic, when ministers were happily handing out PPE contracts to their mates at taxpayers' expense and telling us all to isolate while they were throwing parties for themselves. It's a wonder we weren't all throwing up in our face masks in outrage and disgust. And now we have a Prime Minister who backstabbed his way into office, flagrantly lying to us all about mass uncontrolled immigration, making false promises to stop the constant flood of new arrivals, battling their way across some of the safest countries in Europe to get to the UK and claim their legal aid and generous benefits and fly over their extended families, an anti-democratic globalist shill in Downing Street, hoping that something else will come along and distract us all from the stark reality of the utter destruction of our culture and public services. But however nauseating the utter mendacity of our political representatives might seem to be, you only need to take a brief glimpse at what's happening in America to feel like, in comparison, we're living in a land of sunshine and rainbows, being governed by individuals of vast honour and integrity. In the latest putrid subversion of US democracy, the Colorado Supreme Court has ruled that Donald Trump cannot run as a presidential candidate in their state in next year's US election, because they claim he engaged in an insurrection in the storming of the US Capitol on January the 6th, 2021. This is based on one of his countless trademark theatrical inflammatory speeches during his political career, where he told supporters at a rally to fight like hell and march on Congress after the questionable results of the 2020 US election. Now, let's overlook the fact that Trump supporters were practically ushered into the Capitol building by security on January the 6th. They practically held the doors open for them. They couldn't have been made more welcome if the security had laid on a buffet. And let's remember, this protest was a perfectly understandable reaction to what any rational person could see was a dodgy election. The first time a suspect postal voting system had been used, with widespread rumours of ballot stuffing. An election where most mainstream media outlets ran with the narrative that Trump was colluding with Russia in some way, despite there not being a shred of evidence of that being the case before or since. An election where Joe Biden and his son Hunter Biden's involvement with a Ukrainian holding company for a conglomerate of dodgy energy exploration and production companies was hidden from the public through FBI intimidation of social media companies. An election where apparently the American people elected a man in the latter stages of senile dementia with a penchant for sniffing kids' hair. A man who keeps falling downstairs, losing his way off stage and can't string a sentence together. A man who clearly is not in charge of anything. This Colorado ruling demonstrates that the American legal system has been ideologically captured, is no longer trustworthy and fit for purpose, and along with a collection of mainstream media and corporate interests both inside and outside the US, there is no depth to which they won't sink to keep Trump and possibly the Republicans in general out of office, regardless of the will of the people. The US media tries to gaslight the world into thinking this is normality, rather than what it is, a stinking, corrupt leftist autocracy. And what happens in America, of course, spreads swiftly across the Western world.